So Ken, while you were gone, there was a bridge collapse. That's where we're going to start today. And if you spend any time on the internet, either this morning or over the weekend, you will see that the Democrats and the members of the media, they're trying to make something happen. They're trying to say that Republicans en masse are saying, oh, this is what DEI gets you, right? Have you seen that? Even over the weekend, Dana Bash over there at CNN, which, by the way, there's some broadcasters, probably some people feel this about me. But with Dana Bash, it's like there's some people on television, I have no idea how the heck they keep their job. Dana Bash is one of them. But she was on CNN, and if you're on the internet, you're going to see all of these different headlines where Republicans, they say, according to the headlines, are trying to blame DEI on the collision and the bridge collapse and so forth. And so when you look at that, it is clear that there is a narrative that they're trying to sell. And the more that I see it, the more that I wanted to talk about it this morning, because the headlines, they really do make it seem like there is this massive round of Republicans that are saying this when in reality, it was just a few. And I'm going to be honest with you, a couple that I've never heard of, and other comments are being taken completely out of context to make it seem like those racist Republicans are blaming DEI for the bridge collapse. I've got some examples, by the way, but this is Dana Bash, and she's on CNN, and this is over the weekend, and this is what she had to say. Again, this is Dana Bash over the weekend. Listen.
Some Republicans are trying to blame the bridge collapse on policies that encourage workplace diversity. A Utah state representative who is running for governor tweeted, quote, "This is what happens when you have governors who prioritize diversity over the well-being and security of citizens." Another Republican running for Congress in Florida posted, "DEI did this." What's your response?
Now, she's speaking to, what is your response? She's speaking to the black governor for the state of Maryland, a guy by the name of Wes Moore. And so you heard, and clearly, at least to me, it feels like she's trying to, race bait. I mean, literally, that's what she's trying to do. She's trying to race bait. And I actually, by and large, for the most part, like what Wes Moore had to say.
My response is I have no time for foolishness. I'm locked in. I'm making sure that we can get closure and comfort to these families. I'm making sure that we're going to keep our first responders safe who are doing heroic work. I'm making sure that we are going to open up this channel and be able to get boats and ships and get our economic engine going again. I'm making sure that we're taking care of our people, to include our first responders and families and small businesses who have been impacted by this. And I'm making sure that we are going to get the Key Bridge rebuilt. I have no time for foolishness, and so I'm not going to delve into it.
And you know what? I actually, when he talks about foolishness, I actually wondered if he was talking about the question. Because to me, I don't believe, even though there have been, again, and I'm going to get into this, some Republicans that have said some sort of things like blaming DEI, it has certainly not been en masse, not by any stretch of the imagination. And so when he says foolishness, I'm wondering if he's referring to Dana Bash, even asking the question. Because what happened in Baltimore is horrific. What happened in Baltimore has been absolutely awful. Are DEI policies to blame? No. But that doesn't mean that there has not been a massive, best way to put this would be priorities all screwed up when it comes to infrastructure. But remember what I've said, and I've got a little bit more audio to play, but remember what I reported to you in last week. And that is that this has been going on. These bridges that were built pre-1980, they all have these issues. They all have this vulnerability. And we've talked about that. So if you are a Republican, or if you're anyone, and you blame DEI for the vulnerability of this bridge because the Democrats haven't been focused on, shoring up our infrastructure, well, I hate to break it to you, friends, but we've had the Bushes, we had Donald Trump, and yes, we do have and did have Joe Biden and Barack Obama and Bill Clinton as well. In other words, if we're going to blame this infrastructure issue on politics, well, then you got to blame both parties. However, when it comes to what the Republicans, some, very few Republicans, and most that I haven't even heard of, are blaming DEI, well, that is just the Democrats trying to race bait this situation to score very cheap political points. Going through some of this audio as CNN's Dana Bash is desperately trying to get the Maryland governor, Wes Moore, to comment on Republicans and the way that it seems like she's trying to portray it, and certainly the headlines out there today are all trying to make it seem like Republicans, at large are trying to blame DEI for the bridge collapse. And so one of the things that he said is basically, and I played you the audio, and that is, I'm not going to partake in that kind of foolishness. Basically, it sounds like he's in the zone and he's not going to deal with this line of questioning. And I don't have any issue with his answer. But, for Dana Bash, like usual, she's simply going to keep needling and trying to, poke that racism because, frankly, that's all the left has. But this is part of what she had to say. Again, this is an interview with Maryland Governor Wes Moore.
You call it foolishness. The mayor of Baltimore seemed to go in a different direction. He is black, and he was described in an online post that got millions of views as the DEI mayor. He responded by saying, we know what they say, what they want to say, but they don't have the courage to say the N word. Is this racism?
I mean, come on. Now, I don't know who said, and I'll have to look it up. I meant to look this up before I opened the mic, but one Republican saying this guy was a, quote, DEI mayor. I don't know who that was, but this mayor was elected by the by the residents of Baltimore. Now, I could go on and on about these communities that elect the same party over and over and over again as their city continues to crumble. That's a whole nother conversation. But for Dana Bash, for her purpose of trying to sort of throw salt in this wound that Baltimore is dealing with right now by now trying to drum up, this, all of this racism talk, I think is pretty much par for the course for the mainstream media. And by the way, this is his answer.
Is this racism?
My focus on making sure these families are getting the comfort and the closure that they need, making sure that our first responders are getting the supports that they need, making sure that we can get these channels open, and making sure that we can get this key bridge rebuilt. I frankly do not have time to be able to deal with anything else. I'm locked in, and I'm focused on what matters right now.
Well, that makes sense, and that is understandable, and we should not lose sight of the human cost here.
You know what I love about that last part of that soundbite is basically she tried to poke and prod him to go down, this whole conversation of racism, and good on him because he said, no, I'm locked in to getting the harbor open, getting the bridge cleaned up and rebuilt. Because Baltimore is losing, as you know, if you listened to our reporting last week, Baltimore is losing millions and millions of dollars every single day. And so he says, and he's been asked this ad nauseum, that he is ignoring this. And I like that. I do. And I like how Dana Bash, she's trying to recover from the fact that dude is the governor of Maryland is saying, I'm not going to pay attention to your line of questioning. And I like how she's trying to recover from that.
Well, that makes sense, and that is understandable, and we should not lose sight of the human cost here.
Yeah. So there you go. But if you look at the headlines today, I've got a bunch of headlines written down here about all of it's from The Hill, you've got the Daily Mail, you've got CNN, MSNBC, and they're all breathlessly reporting on the same thing, which is all of these Republicans, MAGA Republicans, are calling on this bridge collapse, and the reason for it is DEI. Now, here's the thing. This is what Representative Nancy Mace said, Republican out of South Carolina, telling Newsmax on Tuesday that the government is focusing on spending federal funds on waste when it could be going to things that are the government's purpose, just like this. We're not spending it on roads and bridges. Look at the $1.2 trillion infrastructure bill that was done a couple of years ago. She says that the left hails as this massive success, but it was mostly Green New Deal, actually, in that bill. May said, referring to the 2021, they say, bipartisan infrastructure bill signed into law by President Joe Biden. And that is true. I mean, there was all kinds of Green New Deal stuff in there. And so then that does question the priorities of the Biden administration. But again, this has been going on through many presidents, including Republicans as well. So if you're going to go after, Biden and misplaced priorities, well, Republicans, they have been in office too, as these bridges have continued to age. And so this is part of the problem, is that you do have the left, and they have been going after, and they have been trying to promote this whole Green New Deal thing that they have been trying to sell, and it is an absolute disaster. And, it is true. The Green New Deal type plans by the left, and I don't want to relitigate this whole thing, but it is true, would completely destroy our economy, jobs, and our country. So we don't need to go through all of that again. Misplaced priorities are a very big deal. But Nancy Mace was talking about misplaced priorities. She wasn't talking about DEI. She was talking about the Green New Deal. Another one, Utah State Representative Phil Lyman blamed DEI policies for the bridge collapse. They said the Utah gubernatorial candidate running against Governor Spencer Cox shared another account's post online that attacked Port of Baltimore Commissioner Corinthia Barber, a black woman whose biography says that she owns a consulting practice that takes on work related to DEI. So that's where that came from. But this is a state representative in Utah, okay? Somebody that most of us have never heard of. And another one, a person by the name of Anthony Sabatini, a Florida congressional candidate, blaming DEI for the bridge collapse, they say, in a post on X the morning of the collapse. And then, this is something where, again, this is a candidate and, frankly, somebody who most people have never heard of. And this was also in the hours, for the most part, following the collapse, when we didn't really know what was going on. So to me, the fact that the left and some in the media are trying to make more of this, I would say, says a lot more about their agenda than the people who actually made the original comments. And I would say good for Maryland Governor Wes Moore when he comes out and he says, I'm not going to deal with this foolishness, i.e., I would say, this silly line of questioning.